So this movie opens on the L train tracks of Chicago while the "This Will Be" song
an everlasting love
plays.
This will be.
And Lacey, you were spot on when you say a movie, if you want it to be a Christmas movie, it has to open with the Christmas song.
Yeah.
So right there, you're like, oh, Jon Turtletaub, you didn't know what you were doing here. You wanted a Christmas classic, but you open with this shit.
Hey, it's a great song, but it's not a Christmas song. And they immediately start playing Christmas songs afterwards. So just a little switcheroo, buddy.
And also this movie came out in April, which is always weird.
Yeah.
When a Christmas movie comes out in the summer.
And because I don't know that they had it in their hearts that this would be so contingent on the Christmas vibe. I feel it's almost an afterthought. It's like, yeah, Chicago was already decorated for Christmas when we were filming. What if it's Christmas? I don't know.
Chicago in winter, a magical place. I've been a few times during the... Never at Christmas. It's always been like right after Christmas, but still all the Christmas stuff is up and you're like, wow, this is great. Like Kevin McAllister. That's what I've been like when I'm there.
You've been like, and then you have chowder. I know, I've heard.
That's Boston.
Fuck.
You're remembering my one story of liking something I ate when I ate chowder in Boston.
I just feel like you eat it when it's cold, so that those two things went together for me.
Yeah, just that one time. But right away, just lots of footage of skyscrapers and Chicago landmarks, and there's nothing special about any of this, but it makes you feel like you're in the right hands.
I know where I am. Yeah, and it it's just a great use of the city, and you can tell that you're in a part of the city. They're not trying to tell you can get everywhere in Chicago easily all over the place that they don't pretend to. Everywhere she goes, she walks, and that's you kind of construct your life that way if you're not a person who's driving a car around. Or you take the
Does
L.
she have a car in this movie at all? Okay, cool. Well, it's very jarring. You're hearing, the "This Will Be," and you're all the great photography of the Chicago skyscrapers, and then it's very jarring. Just cuts away to orange. You're on like a rural bridge.
Yeah.
As a girl watches a barge go through a river, and then Sandra Bullock's narration starts. It is a little bit of whiplash.
Yeah. And then she narrates really quickly at the end too, and I just don't think it's needed. I guess they're trying to tell us. They're situating us without any kind of clunky exposition later that she's lost her mom early and seems to have lost her dad, or we can get that sense. And she's a sentimental person. He is too. She loves love and has high hopes for her future.
Yeah, because she's explaining her dad, and he was a bit of a dreamer, wistful, sentimental, and he put that into her head as well. He's reading her fairy tale books, and look, this beautiful orange, this glowing globe next to her bed. So it's like you're
going places, baby.
Yes. So ideally you wouldn't have to do a prologue and narration you'd find a way to organically learn this about the character, but it is, the idea. She's a dreamer. Her head's in the clouds a little bit. And then this contrasts with,
but also kind of a helpless, stunted dreamer. Like we can assume her dad was too, right? You can be a dreamer and not a doer. And that's kind of the vibe. Right,
because her dreams are, she literally says, I'm waiting for my prince. One day I'll meet my prince. And this is a Disney movie, and she's literally reading a Disney book. But that you're right, that kind of makes her a sort of like passive observer of the world.
Well, and she, if not for being completely swept into this misunderstanding, all of this does happen to her, not because of her.
Right. Right. And this movie's her journey is learning I too have agency in this world and can participate, and I deserve love. But she works for the Chicago Transit Authority in a toll booth taking L train subway tokens. And despite being played by Sandra Bullock, she is supposed to be like just an anonymous person. You wouldn't even notice her. She just disappears into the scenery.
It's her posture. It's how she looks down. That's the only way it can happen. It's just what she thinks of herself more than what her actual physical appearance is, because she's fucking striking. That chin.
Right.
That chin could cut diamonds.
This is her dad has died like in the past year, so she's still kind of hasn't worked through that.
Well, and I don't know what it feels like to have no family. It's very interesting that because you don't have a mom and a dad, you have no family. So, her mom and dad kind of seem like drifting dreamers. She's kind of an orphan. So she moved to this new place because there was a research hospital, and then he dies. So now she's stuck in this place that isn't her home and just feels really lonely.
You know, and she said in the narration that her dad would move them to exotic places like Milwaukee. And then Sandra Bullock herself was an army brat and moved all around Europe. So I guess, yeah, she never had roots anywhere, never has deep ties to anybody. And then once her dad dies, that's it. She's just got no ties to anybody. It's like she's not even alive.
She seems to just keep waiting for her life to start, as if it hasn't already.
So, and she says in the narration, she talks about Peter Gallagher, who plays this handsome, well-dressed man who gets on the train every day, and she's in love with him despite having never talked to him. And she says someday she's going to find a way to introduce herself, and it's going to be perfect, just like a fairy tale. But she hasn't done it because he would, if she introduced herself to him, he'd be like, "Gross, you look like Sandra Bullock. Yuck."
She needs to find the perfect moment. A mugging.
I think that the movie doesn't really explore the class dynamic, which is she's a working class person pining after a very clearly successful man. But it's never like she brings up, there's only one moment where she says anything to indicate that like she doesn't fit in with his family because of.
But like they're going all around the edges of it. Yeah. Honestly, she fits more in with the family than he does. He's the one that kind of rose above their station, and they have some thoughts on that. He left the family business and he left his brother there to be the only son in their business, kind of leaving him to, well, I didn't go get a advanced degree. I guess I do have to stay here with dad. You know, there's this, they have a sweet relationship. They seem to love each other, but you know, there's that a healthy little tension of, well, good for you with your white carpet in your loft.
Right. And apartment. he's whatever life he's risen to, it is totally separated him from them because they can reasonably assume like, yeah, he'd get engaged and not tell us. This isn't surprising to us. And
his relationship ended with the last person that they know of like months before all this commotion. So he's a busy 30-something guy having a career. It's totally believable. And then you got the other brother who still works with the dad and just around the corner. Yeah,
there's the two kid dynamic. There's the kid who stays and the kid who leaves.
It does make sense that her being a doting daughter that stayed, what else would she do? But you know, the attachment to the dad, they were perfect for each other.
She is trying to pull a Christmas tree into her little apartment and does it by pulling it outside the window, but drops it through her landlord's window. But then the landlord's like, that's okay, Lucy.
Well, you can just tell she's got a magic about her. Like, it's impossible not to like her. She's a sweet, caring person. So I'm sure she's got enough good, what am I trying to say here?
Vibes.
No. Benefit of the doubt. What am I? Good? Grace? Anyway, she's proven herself to be a good person, but clumsy. Clumsiness is a constant theme throughout the movie in the people that are extras that are just in the establishing shots and with her.
I wonder.
And actually other characters who are kind of going through a moment. It happens with multiple characters. The tripping, the falling into things, the life's not perfect. Kind of, even Sandra Bullock can look like an ass. I'm not really sure what it's saying.
Life's not perfect like a snow globe.
Or like a fairy
messy.
Tale. Mm-hmm.
People fall over.
People forget that you only want mustard on your hot dog, asshole.
But
she's kind of invisible. I like that theme.
No, that's exactly what she is. She carries herself that way. Despite looking like Sandra Bullock, she is just part of the background. Nobody sees her. Even the people she interacts with every day don't realize.
She makes an impression, though, on the ones who count on her. So that's why she's got this great relationship with the person she shares a booth with, her coworker, and then their boss. She's almost got like a father-daughter thing going on. And then with her landlord, another father-daughter thing happening. She finds these men. And then, you know, like the landlord wants her to marry or to date his son. You know, everyone sees the potential in Lucy, but she doesn't see it.
The scene with her landlord, she has like a nice little moment. She gives him a present, a Christmas present. He seems so touched. And it is weird that it seems like this guy will be in the rest of the movie. You never see him again, this landlord. But then his son, Joe Jr., played by Michael Rispoli, who's very funny, then comes in and he is just a total galoot.
Well,
he's like, hey, Lucy, why don't you go to the ice capades?
There's a reason. Lucy has a good head on her shoulder. She's a reasonable person. She knows how to stay safe in Chicago. She's not some damsel. So I think they have to tell you, like, look, dad down below who's running the actual building. It's not fucking Joey Jr., whatever his name is, even though he claims to own the place. Like, she's safe. This guy's not a predator. Allow him to fumble and wear your shoes and to be kind of a creep, because, like, if she really needed to take care of it, she's got dad downstairs to handle her. So I think they need it to, so that, you know, like, Lucy's not in danger. This is a nice place that she's picked to live. She makes family everywhere she goes. That's the point.
She goes to the hot dog vendor who she goes to every day and doesn't remember her and doesn't remember the way she likes her hot dog. And then her boss, Jerry, comes and he's like this bureaucrat, and he likes her, but and I guess this is a good job. This is a city job, a union job. She probably has a nice pension. And he's like, I'm recommending you for employee of the month. And it seems like this is going to be a joke, like, about a fake award. But then he's like, no, you'll get to ride in a parade and get a bonus pay. But it's because you're the employee who doesn't have any family, so you can work on the holidays.
Right. Well, it's just to get her to do what he needs her to do. Yeah.
No, I know. It's just funny. It starts off like, it seems like it's leaning into the idea that he made up an award for her.
I never really gave it any thought.
Yeah, she's the only employee who doesn't have family. As such, hey, we're going to need you to pull your weight around here on Christmas, because people still need to give subway tokens to somebody.
And everyone will just go through one little area, because on a day of Christmas, there's hardly any travel on the L train. Don't you worry, one booth.
Right.
All right. So now she's looking down in her booth, as she does. And this is the first time that her dream man actually talks to her. And that's because it's Christmas Day. And he says, Merry Christmas. And she looks up and she's got a reply, but he's already gone.
She's totally flustered, as happens to her.
And then she sees the gentlest of muggings from some street toughs toward her man, and he's like backing up to say, I don't want any trouble, and he falls off of, it's a very high little platform that the train comes up to. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm kind of a city person, so I know this. And he falls backwards, but gets a cut on the front of his head. Interesting. And she kind of annoyingly to me, immediately goes over there and gets on top of him. And the trains are coming. And she's, Mister, oh, please, Mister, won't you wake up? Hey, Mister. It's like, just start dragging his fucking ass. No one is coming to help you. There is a train. This is not a last minute. This further shows you her, like, kind of learned helplessness, her inability to make choices for herself. She literally needs a train this close to her before she's like, I'll save us.
That's true. That's a good point.
Learns that she has the strength to do these things. It's not until she's pushed that she realizes she has the strength.
That's a good point. Yeah. This is also pretty impressive stunt for a little romantic comedy that these two stunt people who roll out of the way of a real L train.
That's fucking nuts.
But they really did film this on the Chicago tracks. They said it was very scary.
Oh, poor them. Okay, so now the series of events, and it's kind of like Home Alone 2, where like a lot of things kind of have to happen in a perfect way and in a quick time for them to get as fucked up as they do, as quickly as they do. She is the person who saves him, so she's there when 911 comes and takes him to the hospital. And because she's got this attachment to him, she decides to go to the hospital. If it had been just from a random person, I doubt she would have done that. But now she's in a situation where she's trying to like get into the room, and she doesn't even know his name. And so she quickly realizes, like, okay, I'm not anything to this guy. I can't get any further. And she's muttering to herself, as she does, I was going to marry him. And a nurse overhears and is like, it just assumes she was going to marry him. Okay, fiance. She gets her in to the room, and the family is so cute. They always come as one. The family is a character. It's just all of them at once, except for Saul, the neighbor, and Godfather, who has individual moments. But they all move in a cluster. Besides
the school
that,
of fish,
it's
yes,
very cute.
They arrive.
Anyway, they come in, and as you can imagine, chaos, and it's announced for her that she's the fiance, and the family, before she can correct the situation, the family is visibly so moved and gone from beside themselves in worry to hopeful and happy, to think of Peter's future and to have this woman there to represent him for Christmas. And so they don't have to think about the beautiful coma that their son is in.
Right.
The most perfect coma you've ever seen in your life.
It's a pristine coma. Before the family arrives, though, the nurse like takes her in. She's like, well, go ahead and talk to him.
Hear your voice.
She like tells a cop who's there. And so like she's already spreading the legend of the heroic fiance who jumped onto the tracks. So it's kind of like building up this thing that she's quickly losing control of. And
I've realized why this movie did not fall into the category of uncomfortable mistaken identity things. You know, this movie makes the mistaken identity so palatable because the whole time they are selling you on how not unstable Lucy is, how level-headed, how caring, how thoughtful. They give her every reason to keep up this ruse, including the fact that along the way, enough people are finding out what's actually happening. So she's always got this anchor of the nurse who she immediately goes into the hallway and she's like, why did you tell him I'm your fiance? And I'm the fiance. And she said, well, because you said it. She's like, I was talking to myself. Anyway, they have this exchange and it's like, okay, at least she's got someone there in the place she's about to spend a lot of her time that's like knows the real her. It's one less person she has to break the news to later. And the biggest relief is she can't sleep that first night after having this whole family think she's someone she's not. So she goes to the hospital and the room's empty, and you got to think it's a coma situation. So they're going to do that thing where they take shifts staying with him overnight, but no one's in the room.
They don't care.
Well, that's not true. Someone was in the bathroom, Saul. So she goes and sits down and she's got no one to talk to about this. So she just kind of unloads the whole thing, lays it all out. And behind, with an open door, was Saul, the godfather, who hears the whole thing. He keeps it to himself and he just kind of puts it in his pocket. But then he goes to her really early on and says, kind of hints like, hey, you wouldn't hurt them, right? You're a good person, right? It kind of feels her out. He's just that kind of this like godfather, like, oh, he's kind of like a fairy godfather the whole time, kind of like pushing her to do the hard parts, kind of whispering to her, kind of saying, hey, I've got your back. I'll help you. I'll do the hard parts, but really putting her in a position where she's got to handle it herself. He's her fairy godfather.
Well, the way that the reveal of him overhearing her, confessing to Peter Gallagher, it wasn't clear to me the first time I watched the movie that he actually heard her or he was just watching and seeing like what is up here. And then I thought, is this going to be one of the things where like it's revealed at the end like he knew the whole time? He holds on to the secret for like 30 minutes or so before finally telling Sandra Bullock, I know what's really going on here. And like you said, it is a good relief valve. It relieves your stress that you usually have watching these kinds of movies, because she isn't carrying one. She's often not actively carrying on the deception. People are doing it for her. And it would be, her boss tells her like, that grandmother has a weak heart. If you tell her the truth, she might die.
Exactly.
My mom freaked out my mom blew her intestines out when I told her I was getting married. So it's almost like
all along the way, she's getting encouraged that she's doing a good thing.
Yeah. And because she has somebody who she can actually talk to, that makes it a little more okay. I think it's a smart way for you to be brought along on this ridiculous story.
Yep.
There's I just wanted to point out when the family goes in, Peter Boyle is the dad. He's very funny. Jack Warden is the Saul, Peter Boyle's best friend, but he's also Peter Gallagher's godfather.
And their neighbor.
Yeah. And also he's our neighbor, but he's part of the family. And, okay, so they're all in the room and they're like, they're talking to the comatose man. And then a doctor comes in and there's already a doctor in the room, but then this little weasel doctor comes in and he's like, excuse me, doctor, what is she doing here? About Sandra Bullock. And then Peter Boyle intervenes and he's like, oh, she's his fiance. She is family. So like the family's already adopting her. Like, we love this woman and we always hoped Peter would find a nice girl to marry, and clearly just look at her. She's got to be great.
they said the key word to her. This is a woman searching for family and wanting it and trying and finding it everywhere she goes. But this is someone confirming, no, you're part of our family. So, it really pulls her in.
But for somebody who nobody ever notices, suddenly you're getting like camera perspectives. You're from Sandra Bullock's perspective and she's panning around the room and you go onto each one of these people and they're just staring at her and beaming. They're so happy that she exists.
You're right.
And then they start asking her questions like, how did you meet? And instead of her telling it, like people just keep suggesting things. Yep. Did you meet at work? Did you meet at a ball? And
she doesn't lie. She finds a way to tell the truth in a leading way.
Well, Saul, Jack Warden, is like to one of the other old people. He's like, let her tell it. And the grandmother's like, she is telling it, but she hasn't said anything.
Right.
So they're like, well, what made you fall in love with him? And she's just like, his smile. And then Peter Boyle, the dad, is like, the cap's $600 a tooth. Everybody's investing everything into her without her even really filling in the details. So she goes back to her apartment and she gets accosted by Joe Jr. and he's like, hey, tomorrow night, me, Icecapades. I know a guy. And she's just like, huh? And just grunts at him. But he takes that as assent. Yes, I accept your invitation to a date.
Yeah.
So even with him, she's just kind of like, just be non-committal. Don't say anything. Yeah. And everybody will just make assumptions. But she goes back to the hospital to see Peter by himself and she confesses the whole thing. It's a very good monologue. She thought her life would be bigger. She thought that she'd live the American dream, house, white picket fence. But now she just lives alone with a cat. But she's not complaining. And she asks, do you believe in love at first sight? Because she's in love with him. She's in love with Peter Gallagher, even though she's never said a word to him. Although what she will find with Bill Pullman, who she does fall in love with, is it's not love at first sight. It's love at first
fall all over the place. At first trauma. The point is you gotta get to know each other. And she says in her monologue the thing she really wants is someone to laugh with.
That's right. Yes, I wrote that down.
And though Peter does make her laugh once or twice, it's Bill Pullman. Is it Pullman? Okay, Bill Pullman, who's really got her same sense of humor.
Yes, and they have lots. I like that this movie has them laughing a
ton,
lot.
And it makes me laugh. And I'm like, it's just, I feel it. I feel like these two actors really enjoyed each other.
And they're not just laughing at like what happens. They're laughing at each other's jokes.
Yeah,
and they're making jokes to each other.
Right. Their jokes aren't for us. Their jokes are for each other. And it's like that makes a fucking difference.
Lacey, do you believe in love at first sight?
No. That doesn't make sense. I'm sure I've looked at a person across the room and thought, oh, wow, that person's really my type aesthetically or something. But there's never been like zing or whatever. You
don't believe in a zing? See, because when I met you, and we were friends for a long time before we got together.
You met me when I was pregnant.
Yeah, you were with your first husband and pregnant. Yes. But I did pick up on a vibe. I thought, not her, but someone like her is someone I'd like to date.
God, and I feel like you met me at such an annoying moment of me being like real me, like in front of people.
Okay, but that somehow you being real you, by which I mean performative, loud, obnoxious you, somehow communicated to me, like, it makes my dick move a little bit. I don't know.
Oh, that's really. I think you may have told me that once, but it really hit home this time.
So yeah, love at first vibes. You get a whiff of something, and it was a long, long time before we actually were together. But not when I first saw you, but first spoke to you. Maybe the beginnings of something.
The first time you and me were alone, it was literally our first time that we had an errand to run, and we were in your car for our boss. I think it was our first errand. It was our first time out of the office, just kind of being people and talking about music. And that's when, that's when I got your vibes. And I'm like,
stuff. And I was like, I like stuff.
I like this fucking guy. Yeah. So I know what you mean. People are going to love this part of the episode. Tell you
summarizing this movie was difficult because it's like, then they go back to the apartment, then back to the hospital, then back to the apartment, then back to the hospital. The family arrives again the next morning. And they never seem very upset about their son having a terrible medical emergency. They're like, oh, Lucy, you slept here all night. That's so sweet.
Because look, he's got color. And the doctor, I'm just telling you, I've never heard a more hopeful doctor in the ICU. This is a gorgeous coma. Just look at him. He's somehow getting stronger during this coma. I don't know.
And I guess they just don't actually like him that much anyway. So
and they give you they do give you little clues along the way. But again, the brother relationship is strained due to like one of them kind of leaving the other to take care of what he thinks is the son job.
Yeah.
But otherwise they seem to just they're a funny family. And I feel like families that can laugh together, they just do stay closer. And gross.
Sick. So
Disgusting.
they invite her, she's like, oh, I have to leave. She never like explains. She's just like, no, because I have to go. And they're like, oh, well, you have to go, but will you come to our, it's now after Christmas, but they're going to have a post-Christmas Christmas.
And they didn't get to.
Yes, I love a post-Christmas Christmas.
They didn't get to.
They didn't get to, I agree.
No one had one.
And they invite her to that. And Peter Boyle in really bad ADR explains like, here's my business card. We buy furniture from dead people. So it's like,
this is important for some reason.
Yeah, you got to remember that. Then
as
she's leaving the hospital, she runs into a friend of Peter's from work who's like, you're Peter's fiance? Well, let me tell you, that guy's crazy. But one time...
He's like, man, what a bad year for Peter. Yeah, with the accident and everything. And it's funny that it occurs to her to say, what accident? I would have just assumed he meant this.
That's true.
And then the elevator closes and we don't exactly know, except for we know it has something to do with basketball and a pencil in that man's back pocket. And I thought I had a fever dream about that. I knew this was a theme in a movie, and I would have never thought it was this one.
So we join Sandra Bullock. We join Lucy at her sad apartment. She's eating a sad lean cuisine. She dips an Oreo into her cat's milk, which apparently was Sandra Bullock's improv. She sees the business card of the dead furniture business card, and she decides, you know what? She will attend Christmas with them. This is probably the most active decision she makes in the whole movie, because it is insane of her to decide, yes, I will go join them at Christmas now.
But she's got vibes, man, because she falls in love with everybody. Yes,
and she's contrasting it. She was just with this very warm, loving family, and now she's at home with her sad cat.
Right.
So she goes there, but Saul meets her outside, and he sits down with her, and he's like, did you know I'm Peter's godfather? And there's a really clunky thing where she's like, but I thought you had to be a Catholic to be a godfather.
Yeah, how does she know he's Jewish?
She's like, look at you. You're clearly Jewish. Your name is Saul, for God's sakes.
Right.
And this is just info dumping for the audience, like for anybody who's like, wait a second. Remember how Jim Carroll said it's so nice that people have godparents. What a nice thought that is. It is nice. It is nice. We're both godparents. We should see our goddaughter sometime.
We should really buy her better gifts or gifts.
It is a very and I know you're listening, is a very sweet scene. And I really like, they're just like talking about their family. She tells him about her dad. He tells her that he lost his wife 2 years ago. But this family really helped me get through it. They mean everything to me. And remember, he knows her secret. He knows that she's an imposter. So he says, he's just like sussing her out. Like, I'd never let anybody hurt them.
All right. Don't have to be so sexy about it.
And she's like, I wouldn't either. And he's like, I think that's true. So he's like, I'm going to see how this plays out some more.
What you don't know about Saul is that when he was not retired, he was in the mafia. So he knows.
You got to look pretty closely, but we've done the work.
We know.
This family is fucking thrilled that she's there. Like, Lucy's
I would have been thrilled too.
And they are just doing family stuff. They're laughing. They're drinking eggnog. The grandma's like, I don't drink anymore. I don't drink any less either. And they all
I love that fucking grandma. She's from like another planet. I love her.
All of this is happening, remember, while their son is having a severe medical crisis across town. They give Lucy a present. She's moved. They have put up a stocking for her. Mm-hmm. And you watch it all from Lucy's vantage. You realize this is what she's always wanted, to belong.
And for her husband to be in a coma. Just like her dad.
They're the ideal man.
Sandra drank plenty of eggnog that night. Lucy did. And so she slept on the sofa.
Which is insane.
Anyway. It's Christmas. I get it. And she would have had to take a cab back to her, whatever. She falls asleep on the sofa and Jack, the brother, gets to Christmas late, and he gets there. after people are laying down and going to sleep, but the little sister's not, and she welcomes him, and then he's like, you're gonna wake up Lucy, and he's like, who's Lucy? And then she says it's his fiance, and he says, no, it's not, because he knows the most about his brother, but still doesn't know that much. Just immediately, this doesn't make sense to him, and Lucy like opens her eyes and she's like, fuck, I'm found out. So then the next morning she wakes up and is trying to sneak out, and Jack's on the stairs for some reason. He's like, hey, and she's like, what? And they have an awkward exchange where she almost confesses everything, and he goes, welcome to the family. I don't know what he does, but it's one of those things where you think he knows. Is he gonna? And he doesn't really.
It is literally 30 minutes on the counter when Bill Pullman finally comes into the movie. They hold back on introducing him for a long time.
He's a snack in this movie, I will say.
And yes, he is. And
a little tiny snack, like a little baby.
He was
snack.
happy to take this role because it was finally, he didn't get to be like the loser in a movie, like in Sleepless in Seattle, where he's Meg Ryan's dumbass fiance who she leaves Tom Hanks for. Leaves for Tom Hanks.
That is a movie black hole for me. Mm-hmm. I don't know that movie.
I don't like it.
I watched it once, didn't stick. I think it might have been too sad or too weepy or too.
It is those things.
Slow.
It's very annoying, but it's the most recent time I watched it, it drove me crazy. And it's like these movies that drive me crazy would make good episodes, even though, hey, we'll do it on our Patreon, because on our Patreons, we're not going to be necessarily following the Load Bearing Beams rules.
Boom. I like it when you're real pissed.
Yes. So Bill Pullman is immediately suspicious. You think he's going to confront her, but like Lacey said, he just says, welcome to the family. And she's like, what?
He's doing a Saul. I mean, he's also feeling her out. So you'd think when she almost confesses, he'd be like, wait, I knew it.
Yeah. Like, it seemed like you were going to say something right there. Why don't you keep going? We see them at mass. They go to, because they're a good Irish Catholic family. They go to mass.
They're talking real loud.
They're talking real loud. They're talking about business. They're talking about other stuff. The grandmother says, I like mass when it was in Latin better because then you didn't know what they were saying. Very funny. Okay, so then Lucy's back at her apartment and going through the box of things that the doctor gave her that or maybe they were, someone at the hospital gave her a big box of things. And that's when she's looking through his wallet and sees that he has a lot of pictures of himself. And sorry, this is an important development that I forgot to mention. We cut to Peter's apartment and hear a voicemail left for him. Well, first his message is like, this is Callahan. Leave a message. Ciao. So this is your first indicator. I mean, he's played by Peter Gallagher, so you already assume he's an asshole because this guy only plays yuppie assholes.
Eyebrows like that.
Yeah. And then we see his apartment. It's like, nouveau riche.
It's like American Psycho. He is American. He's wearing double-breasted suits. His business card looks like he would be friends with Patrick Bateman.
Yes. And then he just says, this is Callahan, which is just the douchiest thing.
Long pause.
So it's his. Ciao. So this woman, Ashley Babbitt Bacon, says, you know what? I've decided I will accept your marriage proposal. So, we've got this ticking clock element.
And so you think someone's going to discover this message because why else put it on a recorder? But of course, Ashley has no idea that he's in a coma. So anytime we hear from Ashley for the majority of the movie, it's going to be via answer machine. Thank God for answer machine technology. So Sandra's going through his things and she's kind of getting to know him a little bit and then discovers he amongst his things was a can of cat food. And she's like, and she's a big animal cat person. She's like, oh shit, that cat's going to starve to death. And she books it to his place.
She's literally saving the cat. That's what you're supposed to do to get the audience on a character's side.
We couldn't need to be on her side anymore. I mean, we love her. She is the fucking cat. All right. We just want someone to take her in. All right. So she gets to, well, I'm trying to think why she doesn't. Oh, okay. He lives in one of those apartments where you have to like go through a person and they have to let you in. But there's like a family just like bombarding the guy at that moment. So she just kind of sneaks in and goes straight up to the apartment. I don't know how she knows which one. His ID. That's how she knows. And she's looking over. She's like, psh, 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 kitty. And then wouldn't you know it, Jack is also coming to this apartment for some reason. Oh, because Jack he needs to talk to Lucy. He still feels weird about some things. So he goes to her apartment. There's a lot of people not calling anybody in this movie. I don't see a phone used at all except for by Ashley Bacon. And
a lot of people just showing up.
Can
you imagine?
That's how you can tell these. I feel like I used to come up with reasons to like need to go to your side of the office, and you'd do the same thing. And it's like when you just kind of feel like you belong somewhere, you just start kind of, I'm just going to go to that person's house and see if they're there, and I'll make up a reason why I should be there. But he's still trying to feel her out. But he runs into, is it Joe Jr.?
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Jr. announces that he's dating her because he thinks it's going to impress. Or he's feeling threatened by Jack, and he thinks he's dating her.
Do you know Lucy? Do I know her? We're dating.
Yeah. So now Jack's like, I knew something was off. She's got another man, this beautiful specimen who's just like my brother. Just kidding. So he follows her to his brother's apartment and kind of sneaks in and ends up, they run into each other. It's like, oh, and he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm here to feed the cat. And he's like, my brother doesn't have a cat. And then the cat walks around the corner, and she picks up the cat just so she can see in a very casual way the name of the cat. Oh, there you are, Fluffy. And anyway, it's played off perfectly. And Lucy's not a smooth woman, but she finds all the right moves to handle this situation.
Yeah, things will just fall into place for her.
And just the right amount of things shake the brother's confidence. He's so sure he knows his brother well enough to know that his brother doesn't own a cat. He's right, but he doesn't look right because here's a cat. It just so happens to be Ashley's cat. So his brother does know him, but he keeps getting proven wrong over and over again. Just enough to believe Lucy. And I don't know what else. Oh. And then a call happens, and he's like, well, why don't you answer it? It's your fiance's phone. And she's like, I'll let the machine get it. And so he's like, well, I know, a person that knows a person answers the phone is kind of the mood. He grabs the phone, he answers it, and they're asking for Lucy because it's the hospital. Mm-hmm. So it's just, Chicago wants this for them. Everything's falling into the right place.
Yeah.
It's too early for him to find out he doesn't love her yet.
This movie's only been going on for 40 minutes or so. He can't find out yet. Can you come to the hospital? We're asking all the family members to give blood. And so he's like, the whole way to the hospital, he's quizzing her. What's his favorite? Which one of the three Stooges is his favorite? And she says, Curly. Or she just guesses Curly. Yeah. And he's like,
it's everyone.
Everyone's favorite, which is not true. I think Curly or Mo is generally the answer. No, poor Larry. Nobody ever chooses Larry, but he was an indispensable part of the team. Then the grandmother says, like, if she wanted to prove it, she would. And then they all look expectantly at her, like, go ahead. And she swallows hard. And she says, Peter has one testicle. And then she tells the story of the pencil accident. But they're like, wait, no, he doesn't. He has two testicles. So somebody's got to look, and it's not going to be me. And then eventually his mom is like, I'm his mother. I should be the one to look. Well, if I had to choose someone from my family to look at my testicle, who would I choose? I mean,
Elliot.
Yeah, you want my brother would be the person I want.
I would have thought Jack should. I don't want my dad or my mom anywhere near my shit.
Especially when they say, "Well, I am his mother. I should be the one to."
Yeah. No. Ew. Right. See, I'm fucked. I guess Maggie. Can you have Maggie check my testicles if I ever need that?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Okay, because I don't want my brother down there.
Yeah. You want somebody like kind of.
I also don't want Sarah, because then Sarah could tell my brother about my testicles. I don't want any of my family down there.
I
don't want anyone burdened about my situation. Just Maggie can handle it. She works for the Humane Society.
That's true. She's dealing with testicles all the time.
All the time.
Taking them out one after the other.
All right. So they end up having a whole day of events, and no, that's not true. This is a different day. He shows, okay, hospital thing happened. She gets out of it. Woof, I called the testicle thing. Then the next day, he shows up again. Jack shows up to her apartment again because he's got to deliver something to her. But he's going up to her apartment to knock, and that's when he just so happens to catch Lucy leaning in to hug Joe Jr. for saying something nice, for giving her something. She pities him, and it's a sweet moment. And that's when he's like, I got you again, you whore, and confronts her. But he doesn't confront her yet, right? He's just like, hey.
The lean doesn't happen right here. It's at a different time when it is, because this is when she pushes Joe Jr. into the closet, and then Saul comes over, and then she pushes Saul away. And then Joe Jr., and then Jack comes up and he's like, hey, I've got an engagement present for you. It's furniture, but we got to deliver it to my brother's house. And then she finds out Joe Jr.'s in her closet trying on her shoes. There's just, like I said, it's hard to summarize this movie because there's so many scenes. Someone goes to someone's apartment, someone else goes somewhere else.
But this is when they have, for different reasons, she doesn't want the furniture delivered right. She doesn't want the furniture that is the engagement present brought up to her apartment because Joe Jr.'s in the closet. And so her reason is, well, anything would look better in Peter's apartment. Let's just go put it there. That's when they drag the ugly ass couch up there. And that's the first time they run into a guard, and she's already inside, and Jack's like, well, don't you recognize her? That's Peter's fiance. And he's like, oh, I don't know her. And Jack's like, I knew it. And then the guard's like, but I am new. So just,
In
thing after thing after thing.
In the furniture truck, she sees a homemade, beautifully crafted rocking chair. And he's like, yes, I made that. His passion is he doesn't want to just raid the furniture of dead people. He wants to craft it himself, but he could never tell his dad because his dad will be very disappointed.
To die on it. And then he wants his dad to go get that furniture from that estate.
He and his dad have captured the entire lifespan of furniture.
Yeah, that's smart. But he doesn't quite know how to tell his dad. Tale as old as time. They're getting to know each other. They have the most adorable scene of the entire movie with just... I have to assume these characters are actually doing all this slipping and falling on the ice. And is it real, Matt? Tell me it's real.
It's not real ice, but they did slip for real a bunch of times. But yeah, this is just some nice little... Well, first they have a nice long walk where they're sort of getting to know each other and bonding. The point of romantic comedies, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the point of human beings in movies, why it's a beautiful thing that fucking technology, your special effects, your CGI, your artificial intelligence, your deepfakes will never replace is just two people having chemistry with each other and making each other's performances better. It's the oldest magic trick cinema has, but it's still the best one. It's just two actors interacting with each other. And these guys have really great chemistry.
They do.
They're not saying this script isn't like, ooh, the witty banter. They're just two nice people who you like watch and talk to each other.
They both just know how to be like, they have good pacing. They wait long enough before finishing a thought. They don't always say the perfect thing. They laugh at what the other person is saying. It's just all very realistic. No one's trying to be too clever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's very real. Which
is why, like, from this moment, I'm like,
I'll bet she's going to get with Jack.
She could, I don't know, if you and I had like a nice, like, walk like this or whatever, you could tell me anything. You could tell me you've been lying about anything, and I'd be like, oh, okay, and get over it, like, right away. Hey, I've been lying. I'm not your brother's fiance. I'd be like, oh, okay. Well, great, because I like you.
Right.
I don't know.
Right, yeah. Well, the rest of the movie still has to happen.
She goes back to her apartment. She's just like there smiling, thinking about Jack, watching him go walk away through the window.
With his ripped pants.
Yeah, and this movie is rated PG, so it is surprising that we then see her violently masturbate like Naomi Watts in Mulholland Drive. I was not expecting that. For Disney Plus also.
That's the plus.
That is the plus.
So
Lucy, goes to her boss. She's like, what should I do? And the boss is like,
keep it up.
Yeah, you can't tell them now. You're in too deep. So at the same time, Jack is confessing to his comatose brother, like, hey, I really like Lucy. And how about this? He's like shuffling cards. He's like, high card, gives his brother a card. High card gets Lucy. And he pulls up both their cards and he's like, shit, best 2 out of 3. So it's like everybody, they're both like trying to work out like, I know this is wrong.
Right.
What justifications can I come up with to keep doing the wrong thing? So the next day, she's at work, and then Peter's sister, whose name I don't remember, Mary, comes to the toll booth, and she's like, "Hey, sister-in-law," and they start talking. And her coworker now hears that she is engaged. She's like, "You're engaged? You didn't tell me?" And she's like, "Yeah, we're trying to keep it quiet." And then she sends the sister off on her way. But before the sister totally leaves, the coworker's like, "What, are you pregnant?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm pregnant."
It's like, come on, sister. Do you not know what sarcasm is?
But the sister runs with it and goes home to tell the family she's pregnant. Then Jack goes to her apartment again. This is the time that he catches, he sees Joe Jr. leaning on her.
No, he sees her leaning to
whatever.
him.
And then she comes out and he's like, "Hey, can I, wherever you're going, can I go with you?" or no, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going to a New Year's party for work. He's like, well, I'll drive you. And then he just goes into the party with her. He's just following her. And I'm starting to get a little annoyed at all the misunderstandings and the overhearing. And
yeah,
you can't drink that. You're pregnant. Pregnant? I'm not pregnant. And then
the music stops. So now everyone hears that.
So this is just
it's a work party, by the way.
Yes, this is the part of the movie that's kind of spinning its wheels, where it's like they're making weird like demands of her, like you're not right for my brother. I can't say what it is about you, but you're not right for him. And she's like, yeah, you don't even know me, and you won't tell your dad that you want to quit working with him. And he's like, oh yeah, well, what do you know?
Rude.
So it's just like we gotta get to 90 minutes, so we gotta have something. And then it's New Year's and Peter wakes up. He wakes up from his coma and he's confused, except he seems to remember everything perfectly except Lucy. But I think it is funny that the movie introduces this element of like, you got to figure the whole movie comes to an end once he wakes up. But no, he wakes up with like 45 minutes to go.
Right.
And he's like, well, I don't remember you, but you're saying you're my fiance, so it must be true. I just suffering amnesia, because the doctor comes in. He's like, yes, selective amnesia is very common after a coma. And then they all leave him alone, and he just like A, B, C, D.
And every time you see him, he's going through other things he remembers, like really deep cuts too.
Well, and then when he says he doesn't remember, I don't remember you, Lucy. It's like, it seems the movie makes it seem like, well, the jig is up, but then Peter Boyle's like, my God, he's got amnesia.
Because everybody's so in love with her. They're just like, fuck that.
Yeah. And he looks at her and like, he remembers her from the toll booth, but he doesn't. It's like, you look kind of familiar. And Peter Boyle's like, it's coming back to him now. So yeah, they love Lucy way more than they love him. They would if forced to choose, they would choose her. They just don't realize it yet.
Yeah. Lucy's like, okay, this is crazy. This now he's getting a diagnosis he doesn't deserve, because everyone thinks
That's true.
That's what forces it. Like, look, now the doctor thinks he has some other kind of brain thing going on because we're lying to him. I'm not his fiance. He's right. And she's saying this to Saul, like, what the fuck do I do? And he's like, look, I'm going to handle it. I'll handle it. And then the way he handles it is by going in to talk to Peter, and we're like, all right, he's going to deliver the news. And basically he just says, you're a fucking idiot, and you've made fucking idiot choices. And the only way for you to live a good life is to see what we all see in Lucy, and change your ways. And this is a fresh start. She's an angel. She saved your life. And it starts making him think like, okay, there's something about Lucy. Everybody, it's already like got a bow on it. Everyone's already approved. I just got to marry her. And I don't know. It's just, I totally forgot this part of the movie. And it's like Saul's way of fixing it is like, let me just make Lucy an honest woman. Let me just make this true.
It is like she's pregnant. Yeah, he's like, peer pressure. So you got two choices. I can peer pressure you into marrying her for real, or you just have to break up with her. So he's like, he's giving an off ramp to Lucy. Like, here's how you can save face. He can end it for you. Just saying, I don't remember you, and I will never. And
he has the conversation. Then he has a conversation with Lucy, right? And then he's like smitten by her. Does that happen yet?
Well,
this goddamn hospital. Everyone's always here.
I know. Yeah, she goes in and talks to him, and he's like, well, my family loves you. I might as well love you.
Right.
But at the same time, like Bill Pullman comes back to the hospital and has a little talk with his brother, and his brother's like, I'm telling you, I've gotten like what Saul told him has really hit home with him. He's like, I've been a shitty person my whole life. Like things, I need to start making some changes. And I think this right here is the way to do it, is to marry this woman. She can make me an honest man. So I'm making a clean start, but this pisses his brother off, but his brother can't tell him why, because his brother's in love with Lucy. And now Ashley Bartlett Bacon has finally showed up at the hospital. And this is another thing where you're like, okay, well, here she's going to blow the movie wide open, but she just goes to Peter and she's like, I'm your fiance. He's like, no, I broke up with you, and now I'm
3 months
Lucy.
ago. Right. And it was, and this is the first time we realized, no, they did break up enough time ago for it to be believable. Still, that's a fast engagement. But my guy, you and Lucy and Jack have a 1 week engagement, I'd like to point out. But anyway, yeah, it's just all this. You keep thinking this is when the jig is up, and it's not what you think.
I like that when Lucy finally comes clean, it is because
it's on
she,
her terms.
has to make the decision. I have to nobody's going to do this for me. I just have to do it myself.
Exactly.
Which is what happens now, basically.
So for some reason, it does work. Peter does definitely see what they see. He doesn't know her very well yet, but he's like, fuck it, I'll marry her. So for some reason, they're going to have a wedding right away. He's still in the hospital. They're in the chaplain room. That part is not explained. I'm completely confused by it. And she shows up in her wedding dress, and
I love this wedding chapel with the nurse playing the organ
because it's the hospital's chaplain, like the chapel, and with the chaplain, right? And at first she looks really frumpy from far away, and then you see her, and it's like, oh no, you look like a goddamn angel. God, you're fucking beautiful and simple. You simple beauty. And Jack is the man of honor, best man. And the priest, she walks down the aisle like this, the saddest woman. She looks so sad. And then the only time she gets a little bit of brightness in her eyes is when she's like staring at Jack as if she's walking down the aisle to him. She gets down there, and the priest says like, and then she goes,
dearly beloved, we are, and then Sandra Bullock says, I object.
He's like, we're not at that part yet.
And then Jack says, I have to object too.
Correct. And that's when she says everything and says how she's in love. She's in love. I'm in love with your son. We know. No, that one over there. The truth is, I fell in love with with you.
I couldn't tell you the truth. And then I didn't want to tell you the truth because the truth is I fell in love with you. And Peter Boyle's like, with me?
With me?
With all of you. I went from being alone to being a daughter, a granddaughter, a sister, a fiance, a aunt, a neighbor. I might have saved your life on the tracks that day, Peter Gallagher, but the truth is you saved mine. And then Ashley comes in and she's like, I object. And then this new man comes in and he's like, I object to her objection. Like, who's that? Like,
I'm her husband.
Ashley's husband. And then the family gets mad at Peter. They're like, you proposed to a married woman? So they all just start yelling at each other.
Because they think I guess I was just about to say, they seem overly upset and not happy enough about the union of Jack and Lucy. But you think things are going to reconcile there. They don't. There's a lot of commotion. She just slinks out, goes back to work. And then
just time to go back to work.
Just gotta clock back in on her wedding day. And then, she's in the booth looking down like she does. And then you just hear token. And then cling. Is that diamond ring?
Wedding
That
ring.
is the best fucking proposal thing I'm going to get you to work in a toll booth just so I can propose that we stay together. And she looks up and it's the entire family, which I love.
But not Peter. I think that's a little strange.
He's in the hospital.
Oh, right.
He hasn't been discharged. So I mean, they all fell in love with her too. This is so cute.
This is a romantic comedy of a woman falling in love with a family and the family falling in love with her. And they're like, well, you got to pick one of us. So pick the handsome, sexy guy who was the president of the United States next summer.
Okay. But then she's going to die. His wife dies.
Liar. That movie also features a wedding in an unusual location. I believe a military base. That one
makes sense. At least they had time was a ticking. All right. So then, they get married.
Yeah. And they leave on the L train to go to Florence, take the L train to Florence with the just married sash on the L train. Very cute.
It is cute. I will point out the movie ends not at Christmas time anymore. No Christmas decorations are up. No Christmas song is played. There's no Christmas decorations on the train. Sorry. You're not doing it right.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be on Smash Trivia John's podcast, the Gamma Analysis podcast on December 17th. Huh?
Why are you laughing?
Because this seems random that I'm saying this, but it will be clear. Talking about the Simpsons first episode, the Christmas special from the first season. And but one of my favorite Simpsons Christmas episodes is Miracle on Evergreen Terrace. But that episode, Christmas happens at the beginning, and there's the most depressing. When I was a kid, it depressed me so much because midway through the episode, they're back at school.
Oh,
and it was like, still as a 37-year-old man, I see it. I'm like, no. So yeah, maybe it is you lose favor here. Is this a Christmas movie? Well, Christmas happens and then life goes on.
Right.
Sad.
You could have had a Christmas wedding, but you You didn't do it. Yeah.